Hello, and welcome to another interview for the Jesuit Schools Network's 50th anniversary celebration. I'm Julia Andretta. I'm the communications coordinator for the Jesuit Schools Network, and I'm joined today by Bob Reiser, who has agreed to talk to me a little bit about his experience with the JSN. So good morning, Bob. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Julia. It's nice being with you. As we were talking a little bit on the phone, and then now I'm just finishing up as president of McQuaid Jesuit in Rochester. I was at McQuaid 7 years. I taught 1 year, and then president for 6. And then before that, I was the president of St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City for 7 years. And all told, I have just, I believe, I don't want to give away my age, but I've just completed my 21st year in Jesuit secondary education. I have really limited experience in pre-secondary. We had a middle school at McQuaid. 21 years in Jesuit pre-secondary and secondary education. And so it's been awesome. Terrific.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad it's been terrific.
It really, really has. It's been, just a tremendous opportunity to experience, education of youth. These kids that are out there are terrific. The world is theirs, and to be able to form them and influence the world has been tremendous.
Oh, that's good to hear. Well, thank you for your 21 years of service to Jesuit schools. So I'll just jump right in then with the questions. The first question, I always say this sounds like a quiz question, but it's not. So without looking at the JSN's website, without looking at their mission statement, I want you to describe how you perceive the JSN's mission and what ways you feel that it has fulfilled that mission in the last 50 years.
Sure. Well, I can probably go back, not 50, but not from my own experience. No, but seriously, I always find the importance of a school is in the community that it builds. Particularly in the era in which we're living, the importance of encounter, as Pope Francis would talk about it, that we are communities of schools. And so therefore, a community of a school. And therefore, particularly an organization like the Jesuit Schools Network, and before it, the Jesuit Secondary Education Association, is a community of those communities. And something we talked about as we were transitioning from the JSEA to the JSN, I was on the board of directors at that time, and how important it was to focus on a network of networks. So as I think about the mission of the Jesuit Schools Network and the JSEA before it, it is to facilitate that network of networks, that community of communities among this body of membership schools. So first of all, to facilitate that community, that network. And then, how does it do it? Through, leadership development, mission and identity, formation, research, the whole global perspective of we are not only a community of communities in North America, the United States and Canada, but we also are part of this global reality that surrounds us. And so to facilitate that, to work with the membership organization schools so that they can be stronger and better is how I see the mission. Ultimately, we are a membership organization, and the organization therefore serves the members. And I think that image of facilitating a community among communities of the members is tremendously important.
I would agree. Well, thank you. So it sort of, I knocked my phone. Sort of to continue off of that as a way of facilitating this community of communities and these connections. One of the ways that the JSN has famously done that is through its programming and through its gatherings. So we have our colloquia, we have, in the past, we've had symposia, we have the seminars. So my next question is about the programming and the gatherings, what is a JSEA or JSN program that you've been a part of in some way in the last 50 years that really stands out to you now? And what about that program or gathering was so impactful?
Well, I want to mention two.
Okay.
The very, very first one that I went to was in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
I was the director of service at Canisius High School in Buffalo. And the service directors met at the Casa in Scottsdale, Arizona. And the reason it was impactful for me, it was a great program, great connections to make, but it was also the first time that I sort of got outside of my bubble,
Yeah.
the bubble of the local school,
Mm-hmm.
and really just met and learned in a brief period of time. A couple of days is not exhaustive, but just really learned what all these places were doing, and then the importance of staying connected with them afterwards so that we could be mutually enriching of the mission we had. So it was really just this like big world sort of, well, maybe it's better stated, a bigger world opportunity for me, as a young person, kind of getting out there and realizing all the great stuff that was happening outside of my own purview. So that was 1997. The second one, and to tell you the truth, Julia, I forget specifically where this was themed, but one of the colloquia that I attended, and I bet you it might have been Santa Clara, but anyway, or St. Louis. But it was all about a 2020 vision.
Mm-hmm.
What is the vision of the school that you're at? What is it going to be in the year 2020? And when I look back at that and think, it's 2020 now.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? Particularly in this era of COVID. And, you think about our nation and the struggles we're going through with racism, the challenges of COVID, and then all the other, the divisions that we experience. When I think back at that 2020 vision, it really is helpful now to realize that, you always have to have that horizon vision,
Mm-hmm.
but it always is, as Ignatius it tells us, formed by the signs of the times. And that has been super helpful to me through the years of developing a horizon vision. And then as you take your steps forward, you're always refining that based on what's going on around you. And who would have thought that, particularly in this past year, we would have been struggling so deeply as a nation, back wherever we were in Santa Clara or St. Louis. But yet we created a 2020 vision, and we continue to develop that and continue to hone that in. And so, specifics aside, what I loved about that conference, that colloquium, was the invitation to vision, to
Mm-hmm.
always be visioning your horizon, and to be living off of that on the day to day. I found that super helpful. So those would be two examples of my own experience. And just finally, sort of outside of the programming, I was on the board of directors, particularly at the transition from the JSEA to the JSN.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have been technically the last JSEA chair and the first JSN chair,
Oh, wow.
just from a paperwork
Sure.
standpoint. And then I Sean Aniel from St. Louis took over as the chair thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the excitement, the possibility, you get these great people together in a room from all these different experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and you begin to really discern the future, and to have been part of that, even in a transitional way, was exciting. And it's great to see the great work that the JSN is doing now, maybe in part as a result of that discernment at that time. So it's a little bit outside of the traditional programming, but that was terrific as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, this is again me grasping for segues, but if I'm not mistaken, 2020 Vision also netted a document. I think that, yeah, there's like the 2020
Yes.
Vision like book,
Yeah.
which was everything that came out of that conference.
Yeah.
And
I think it'd be fun or interesting to go back and really digest that,
yeah,
and to understand what might have happened between then and now, and learn from that. But it'd be
absolutely.
great to look at that.
In talking about documents, this is another thing that the JSEA JSN is really known for is its research and its production of documentation and publications for use both in the schools and at other levels of Jesuit education. So my next question is about a document that has come out of the JSEA or the JSN in the last 50 years that really stands out to you. And again, what about it makes it stand out so much?
I always have to put my romanticism aside, but I love history, and you
Oh no,
wonder,
by all means, we love
and
romanticism here.
you wonder what the energy around those initial meetings were in the formation of, I believe it was the Jesuit Education Association. I believe it might have been the JEA, the transition at that time over to the Jesuit Secondary Education Association. The preamble, the compendium called Foundations, I have carried that with me in every stop that I have ever been at. Just simply because, as old as those documents are, they really are forever new. And I think I have always benefited from reading them, particularly the preamble, as I was about to say. There's a wonderful line in the preamble that has really given me a lot of hope through the years, particularly in this era of transition of our schools from Jesuit leadership to lay leadership, and then consequentially Jesuit colleagueship with lay leadership. And that is the Jesuit schools, the Jesuit Secondary Education Association said that if the spiritual lives of our faculty, and you could also say our faculty and staff and trustees, if that is imbued with the spirit of Ignatius, then simple numbers of men in black, of we Jesuits in the school ought not to matter, and that for me, and to tell you the truth, Julie, in a lot of ways, has been a formative part of my own understanding of priesthood, of leadership in the church. And you want to complement that, obviously, with a bunch of documents from Vatican II and from the church. But I think the intentionality of forming and partnering and being led by our lay colleagues, I continue to reflect on the grace that flows out of a statement and a document like the preamble. Because otherwise, I don't think we would be collaborating with the Holy Spirit. And so, that as a sort of an aspirational document for me has been impactful. I think there are, obviously the profile of the graduate at the time of graduation. That's been part of our own strategic planning at the school. It's also it's been a wonderful tool to be able to articulate value and difference for a school. Why pay tuition when I'm in a great public school district? Well, this is why, because your son will be emerging into these characteristics. So I know we do believe that it's not a final document, but it's something that a young man or a young woman emerges into at the end of his or her time at a Jesuit school. And so that's another one that, you could have those qualities tattooed somewhere, and that'd carry you. And just finally, less documents and more tools that the JSN currently puts out going back to that facilitating the membership in the community of communities, the resources that schools share with one another. I think of, the dashboard that Kristen Ross Cully produces every year. Like, I live by that. I live by that. Like, because what do I know? What do I know about anything? It's like, okay, I'll go take a look at what SLU High is doing, or what Brophy's doing, or what
absolutely.
you know what I mean. And okay, I'll just steal everything they're doing, and it'll make me look good. So
Yes. No, the resource sharing is another, it's very crucial. It's a very crucial part of like the network. Because and that does remind me too of one of my favorite pieces of writing advice is the good writers borrow, great writers steal. But it's that it is
Good.
that sense though of the community. Yes, it's like the companionship and the relationships you form and the friendships you form. And I think those are all important, but it also enables this sharing of resources and this creativity to come up with things together, which I think is a key component as
Right.
well. Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
Well, thank you. And so we'll go from sort of a macro view of, the documents and resources and programming and companionship. We're going to take it from macro and we're going to go micro. And I'd like you to talk to me about a JSEA or JSN staff member, past or present, who has had a positive impact on you and on the way that you approach Jesuit education.
Yeah, that's could be a lot of people. Particularly, I do, Julia, want to go back to my experience of the board.
Okay.
Particularly at the transition of the JSEA to the JSN. Whether it was Bob Ryan or Brianna Lotko, Sean Aniel, the people who were on that board, Len Altalia, and then I think of Bill Muller.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just would like to speak, and obviously I am going to rely on Bill in my future life. But Bill Muller, I think over the past, how many was it, 6 years now, 7 years, has really transitioned this sort of very respected and very precious a gift that we've had in the JSEA, and has transitioned it so well into the Jesuit Schools Network in a very creative, collaborative, and responsible way. Running an organization is about dreaming, but it's also about the nuts and bolts and the dollars and cents. So I really anticipate as I begin in the spring my role as the executive director, to be really very, very confident in the leadership that someone like Bill possesses. And then also, to be honest with you, I have some connections in California. My aspiration is to be sitting on a beach someday and on the West Coast. So I keep my fingers in that pie out there. But some of our people on the East Coast have connections to Bellarmine, San Jose, Verbum Dei, Brophy, and just a guy who for a long time has committed himself to Jesuit secondary and pre-secondary education. is very inspiring, and be a guy like Bill Muller. When we opened up, we had a building project at McQuaid, really exciting building project. And we got it all together and we're going to dedicate it. And Bill hopped on a plane and came up and spent a bunch of days with us. And I mean, it's like he's got a lot of schools out there and he's got a lot of stuff going on, and just really took the time to come personally to spend the time with me in this wonderful moment for McQuaid. So I just really respect the guy, and I really look forward to benefiting from his hard work, over the years. So that board in particular, and Bill himself, really inspire me and excite me about returning full time to the JSN.
Yeah, we can't wait. We cannot wait to have you. But yeah, like I agree with everything, and a lot of there's been a lot of good that Bill has done, and a lot of good that's been appreciated in these interviews that Bill has done, and I have resonated with it all because.
Well, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to take a venerable institution and transition it, and without while respecting all the good and the tremendous stuff that's there, and again to vision a future and wonder like, okay, where do we need to go, and to be able to implement that is a great gift.
Absolutely. So again, sticking with this micro view, my final question is about a moment. And the way I've been describing it in interviews past is a moment frozen in time. So a fond memory that you associate with the JSCA or the JSN.
You know, as I said, you know, I haven't been around as long as some, but around long enough. You know, I love the colloquia where you know, you go into a situation and you're just surrounded by people who have a similar vocation, I guess you would say, and the hope that emerges from that. And so for me, it has always been those you know, large group gatherings at colloquia, you know, where you're sitting in a room at your table with people from different schools, and you know, the speaker's up there talking about something, and you then go into these groups and kind of collaborate and share the social experiences where you can reconnect with people. You know, I've reconnected with people that I have known, you know, for a long time, but I'm not connected with them on a day-to-day basis. So and I do want to maybe end, if we're ending where we began, the community of educators that gathers very, very specifically at colloquia, and to engage one another professionally, to engage topics that are important to our schools and to the apostolate that we're engaged in, but then also to be socially connected and personally connected to people within you know, the network. You know, to hit the ground running with people from far off places and just know that you connect, you know, that you're not distant from one another is tremendous. So I always value those very, very specifically. I can get into specific moments, but that's more my general thing. You know, when we were in St. Louis for the colloquium, the board met with the Jesuit conference. So it was at that time the JSCA board met with the members of the Jesuit conference. And that meeting, and we were in some upper room, I forget where it was, sort of stands out. So to move over to something specific stands out as a memory for me. It was our board meeting with the Jesuit conference board, the provincials and the president. And they challenged us. And I still remember Tom Smolich saying to me, you know, well, what is your vision, you know, Bob, for the future? What is the vision of the Jesuit Schools Network? And I had to step back and say, okay, I got to think about that more specifically. It was a huge challenge to us as a board by the conference. So what I also want to say, Julie, is not only do these colloquia, you know, they're fun, they're engaging, they're hopeful, they're also very challenging. You can leave those challenged. And I think we, as a board, were challenged by what we heard from our colleagues. And it sort of kicked us in the rear end to get out there and do what we had to do. So the collaboration, the friendships, but also the challenges that come from the colloquia are things that I value very, very specifically in my memory.
Oh, that was perfect. Thank you. I liked that you covered the macro and the micro. But yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Those calls to action, I think, are very
Yep.
empowering.
And that one in particularly was very empowering.
Yeah. Sometimes
way
you
to
need
say it.
those moments where you kind of have like an like,
Yeah.
oh, we need to
Got our
get
act
gear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got our acts together here.
Yeah. Well, great. So I'll just kind of wrap up with a final, like, is there anything that you'd like to leave us with? Is there anything you want to make sure you say? Is there any final thoughts, I guess, as we're sort of wrapping up?
Oh, sure. Clearly my thoughts are reflecting on the past and the gratitude that I have. Really, if you think about it, it has to be God's activity for 50 years, that the initial sort of inspiration of the Holy Spirit of our ancestors, our founders, being played out over 50 years by that initial vision being played out in local places, as Hopkins says, Jesus is played in 10,000 places, in limbs and in faces. I mean, it really has been this tremendous, I guess, living out as a community of discerners the vision and the inspiration of those original people. And you can imagine, therefore, with hope, after having looked at that in the past, then looking into the future. And so my perspective is looking backwards, but it's also looking forward. And I can get really kind of excited and got a lot of energy, and I'm thinking about things to do and reading heritage documents and connecting with people. So I would just like to conclude this time by just saying how excited I am about our future, and also the need for this apostolate within our culture and context today. So here you've got this great energy, this collaboration with the Holy Spirit, discerning God's will in the midst of really challenging times, politically, culturally, and that's exciting. It's also meaningful. There's a depth that comes when you can say, my life meant something bigger than itself. And that's the thing maybe to leave you with is, I think the JSN, our schools, this apostolate, gives us all something much bigger than self from which to live our lives. And Ignatius would say, invite us to consider ourselves on our deathbeds at the end of our lives and to look back and say, like, did it make a difference? Did I make a difference? What did I do? What have I done? What did I do? What will I do for Christ? And, I think the excitement for our future comes from that. And so I'm grateful for the past. I'm excited and energized for the future, because this thing means so much to our world and to these people, these young kids. So I'm looking forward to the future.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your speaking with me today. Yeah, so I guess we'll just sign off. But thank you again. This was fantastic.
Good, Julia. I look forward to connecting with you. Enjoy the next couple of months. Take good care of Bill,
I will.
and celebrate all the good work that the team has done. I mean, we've been working in schools to manage COVID, but you guys have been managing COVID, as a group. Your team has done a terrific job, and so I want to say thank you. But also, in transitions, it's a time to celebrate. So hopefully, you guys get a chance to celebrate.
Thank you. We're doing our best.
Good. Congratulations.